and they just take off. I mean, someone's challenged them, and they're like, nope, not going to do it.
Yeah, and here we go with a start in this women's JV 8. Maybe a little trouble with the blades there in the Husky boat in the center lane, the Yukon boat. But they're back on it now and rowing very cleanly. Very sharp, I must say, as long as they can get away from those buoys, Coxon. And we're off.
Yeah, we see like the last race, we saw a bit of splash going on. Here's your JV heavyweight 8 for the women. And you see the jets of water coming around. That means a little bit of missing water where the blades aren't going in right where you're reaching. And also, as a boat rocks around a little bit left and right, trying to balance that boat. So again, they're rowing a high stroke, high rating. They're trying to hold those blades level. They're trying to balance the boat with their feet and keep their weight centered. It's a lot to do to keep these boats just right on keel and keep everything clean and accurate.
Yeah, and in these 8s, there's a lot of different responsibilities that fall to the different rowers who row in these different seats. Right now we're looking at the backs of the women who row in the bow seats of these 8s. Typically these rowers tend to be some of the smaller rowers in the crew, a little bit lighter sometimes, a little bit smaller. Sometimes the bow seat is actually physically narrower, so it helps to be a smaller athlete back there. But also a lot of times these bow seats get selected for those seats because they tend to be a little bit more technical and a little bit better able to help balance the boat with their body and their blade work, along with the 2-seat, their complement there in those 2 bow seats, the boat balancers.
And one thing in particular about the bow seats, the 1 and 2 seats in these 8s, is the bow rises and falls. And you go further back in the boat, in the middle of the boat, in the stern, it doesn't do that. So you're having this elevation and rise and fall of that. So you're right, they're technically proficient up there in the bow, and they usually can control a lot of the balance of the boat because of that, and they have to be able to adjust to that sense of rise and fall, although they may not really feel that, but it really is a big deal.
Yeah, and I can tell you from having rowed in plenty of 8s with very good athletes, the difference between a medium bow seat and a good bow seat is significant. So we're looking at people who have definitely earned these seats in these bow seats for their technical proficiencies. And of course, one of the best parts of being a bow seat in an 8 like this is that you're the first person across the finish line.
Well, that's true. That's true.
You're always the first winner.
You know, and sometimes the people in the bow, they're like, oh, man, I'm in the bow. I mean, I really wish I was someplace else. For me, I'm like, oh, you don't know. The bow is one of the most honorable positions out there.
Well, and you know what else about rowing in the bow? No one can see what you do. So you can do really whatever you want back there, and no one can say anything about it. But we are looking here at these crews from Connecticut on the right side of your picture, and our crew from Grand Valley on the left. Or did I get that backwards? I can't see the colors. It's definitely Connecticut on the right.
Connecticut on the right. It would be Grand Valley on the left. That's correct.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah. Grand Valley in that light blue boat. And they're rowing very clean. I mean, again, these are the ladies that maybe wanted to get in that first 8, weren't quite there. Maybe their erg scores, ergometer scores were just a slight bit off or whatever, but rowing well.
Yeah, look at these ladies just moving all together as one in this boat, putting up a good fight against this Yukon boat here. Our Manhattan boat not in the picture at the moment. Not sure kind of where they are margin-wise. It's hard to see with the camera angle that we have right now.
Looks like they're off that mark a little bit as far as pace is concerned.
Yeah, so we might be looking here at a 2-boat race at the front of this 3-boat field between Grand Valley State and the Huskies of the University of Connecticut. And we've talked a lot about what the bow seats do in these 8s. We can also talk about the other end pair of this very large, very noble boat. The stern pair, our stroke woman, and the 7-seat. You've rowed up there more than I have. What can you tell me?
Well, I was always a 7-man as worked my way up from the bow seat to the 3 to the 5 during the course of my 4 years in college. But the 7-man, to me, you really had to be part of the mindset of the 8-man. I mean, the whole boat needs to be that way, but the 7-man has to be kind of tuned into the stroke man. So if there's a nuance going on, the stroke man needs to do something. Or if he's, I want to say, fallen asleep a little bit, the 7-man has to help him reawaken. And also, if he's going to sprint, you got to be right on top. You got to know him inside and out, know her inside and out. So if they're going to go, you got to go with them. You got to be their absolute shadow.
So if you're in a race like we're looking at right now, this kind of neck and neck, bow to bow race with another competitor, and you're rowing in that stern pair, what's that like?
It's really getting the stroke person to bring it on, you know, and you can't rely on him. I mean, that strokeman cannot bring this boat up by himself. You have the entire boat go at the same time, and even the 7-man, the 2 people in the stern, can't do it alone. And that's where who you're relying on behind you? Your engine room. Your 6, your 5, your 4, your 3. So that's where all your mental tightness comes together during the course of that boat.
Yeah, of course it is just those leadership qualities that you're talking about in that stern pair combination that can be so important and really turn the course of a race like this when you are coming down the course just side by side, really evenly matched with another competitor like we're seeing here in this race for the JV Women's 8 between Grand Valley State and the Yukon Huskies. They have really made it exciting for themselves and for us as they are coming through the island with all this overlap and hardly a margin between them.
So here you hear the crowd hollering at these two, Connecticut and Grand Valley, and it's overlapping coming in as they come to the tip of the island again. It's 150 meters to go from the tip of the island.
Yeah, and it does look like Grand Valley has been starting to work that sprint against the Yukon Huskies, and they are moving that margin now from what we saw on the drone to almost a full boat length over Yukon. You see the Yukon bow woman looking over, and she is seeing the coxswain and not the middle of the boat where she just was a few seats ago.
And you think that coxswain telling them, we've got it, you know, 3/4 of boat length lead, 10 strokes to go. That's got to be an exciting feeling.
Yeah, Grand Valley just executing this sprint now to perfection in order to come away with the gold medal now in the women's JV event at this year's Dad Vail Regatta. Over the line now for Grand Valley, ahead of a very fierce Yukon boat for the silver.